Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I do hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to this night-ending bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost you a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. With that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this night-ending bonus upload, shall we? We'll start today's off with some glitch in the matrix. A few years ago, before my husband and I married, we had a friend who lived on the east side of town in a duplex with his girlfriend. They planned a cookout with us and some friends, and all of us were out buying goods and brews to take with us. On our way over to the house, my husband and I called to see if they were home yet, but they were also on their way at the same time. We arrived first and parked on the sidewalk area and noticed an empty parking space inside the duplex lot, and figured that it would be a spot for our friends would use, so we just left it empty for them. We sat in the car watching EDM clips and show footage while we waited, and about 4 minutes had passed before we saw headlights of a car coming our way. We saw the car pull into the duplex lot and take up the empty spot. It was our friend's make and model, same tan sedan he always drove. We saw the lights go off, and my boyfriend and I started to exit our car and opened the trunk to take out the beers and steaks and what we have and walked to the duplex and noticed that the empty parking space from before was actually still empty. It didn't make any sense because we started wondering why it would be empty after we had just seen our friend's car park in it. Backlights and all, yet here it was, empty. We stood there in the parking lot looking confused and wondering what the hell just happened and recalling how we both saw them parking. My husband even recalling his friend's face in the window besides his girlfriend. As we stood there looking like idiots, we set our goods down on the concrete and tried to make sense of things. We tried to convince ourselves it was just our imagination, but sometimes lying to ourselves only makes it worse. Then it gets weirder. The same car pulled up in the same path with the same make and model, and our friends were inside of it, just as before. They pulled into the empty space and turned the car off the same exact way, and then got out of the same exact car and walked towards us to say that we had beat them to it. My husband and I were completely confused. How could the same thing happen twice in front of our eyes? All we could think is a big what the fuck, and we told them what we saw when we got into the house. They got creeped out as well, and we just decided to accept it was a glitch in the time and space. To this day, we have no other real explanation except for that one. Today's second glitch in the Matrix event. Everyone at some point eventually gets curious to sneak into cemeteries to try to spot shadows, ghosts, or, in my friend's case, try to get laid. Yeah, he was the guy who got into the cemetery with his girlfriend to smash behind a tombstone. This is his story I remember in detail. R.I.P. my friend Jesse. Hope you're smashing some hot spooks in the afterlife somewhere. He told me that
He had a girlfriend who was kind of into the goth, morbid fetish lifestyle. And he was the daring type. He wasn't scared of anything, not even ghosts. We had seen plenty of them together at the law office we used to work at in the back of the building where it had been gutted, and all that remained was brick walls and empty doorways high up from the second and third floors. And I always the one to screech, Jesse just didn't care. And he would say something like, it's just some weak-ass demon or something. I'll just flash it my dick and make it go away. I would leave the back before I saw any of that. His girlfriend, on the other hand, loved seeing those things. He came back to the office one morning looking strung out, and he told me that he had been at the cemetery all night before with his girlfriend, and he smirked and said, we were smashing behind a tombstone and time froze. We literally stayed at 12:06 for like 2 hours. I thought he was bullshitting, but no, she later told me the same story, and she looked rather amused about it. Jesse isn't the only person who has experienced time loss or gain at this cemetery. Concordia Cemetery is one of the oldest and most haunted grave sites in the southwest of Texas, and every single security guard has said that they've experienced time shifts, shadow sightings, and repetitive old western gunfights by a famous buried icon, forgot the name of the gunslinger, and so much more. Concordia is really a spooky place, but if you ever want to try your luck at weird experiences, good luck sneaking in there at night. It gets pretty dark as well. I decided to go see for myself in my early college days. Go figure, college kids have nothing better to do. 3 of us jumped the wall and made sure to stay away from the security vehicle on the other side where the Jewish burial grounds were. We just did a walk around the old cemetery and goofed off under the trees. We tried taking photos of creepy-looking things to see if anything would come out. We even saw a trippy mist moving in the bottom part where the oldest tombstones were sinking into the ground. I remember looking at my phone at some point before seeing the mist, and it was a few minutes after midnight, like about 10 minutes or so. I ignored the phone time after that, and we went to the famous tombstone where if you leave a cigarette, supposedly the entity will try to smoke it and exhale. My buddy left a cigarette, and we stood around waiting to see if the ghost would start puffing it. After about 5 or 6 minutes, we saw the cigarette dying out, and we didn't see anything exciting, so we got bored and decided to leave. We saw a security vehicle driving closer to where we were, and we needed to leave. What happened was when I checked my phone right away to see if anyone had texted, the clock read 1:54. It went from 10 minutes after midnight to almost 2 a.m. in 5 to 6 minute period. Today's third glitch in the Matrix is actually mine. I've never written this down. I'm just going to go by memory. I've told a couple of friends about this, and they both think it's kind of strange. So it was the summer, and I want to say 94. I was on Mount Desert Island, and that's in Maine. Some of you may know that Mount Desert Island, there is the Somme Sound, which is the deepest sound in the East Coast. Also, it was a hot spot for scary stories during the time of the 1800s. Supposedly there was a witch of Somme Sound, and she would lure sailors into the rocky coast and crash their ships. There's a couple of other tales about this witch. I don't recall them offhand. So anyway, I'm coming from my family's home, and I'm going into town. So I'm coming from Bernard, Maine to Bar Harbor. and I'm going to hang out with some friends. We had planned on watching the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I was walking down this road, very quiet night, dark, very dark, and a couple of cars went by. It was about 10 o'clock at night, literally 10 o'clock. And all of a sudden, I remember seeing this bright light off in the distance on the road coming at me, almost like it was a car with their high beams on. And I remember this bright light coming closer and closer to me. The next thing I remember is showing up at my friend's house, and it was almost 2 o'clock in the morning. They had already watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show without me. I don't recall the walk. I don't recall anything. I don't remember the light passing me. I just remember that instance happening. I've talked to a few of my friends, like I stated, possible UFO. That made sense when I was younger, before I started learning about these time slips and these glitches. But now I think what happened was that I did have a glitch. Very small, very subtle, but that's 4 hours of my life that I can't recall. It freaks me out to this day. I don't get goosebumps, but it freaks me out because I don't remember anything after just seeing that bright light. And the weird thing is that I thought it was high beams because, if a regular car is coming at you, you see two lights. This was just like one solid bright light. So it was like the high beams kicking in and just projecting that light. I don't know. And I just figured that I'd share this with you guys. I had made mention of it 2 uploads back, and I felt that it fits, because I'm sure there's lots of us that have had these glitches with a time slip that we just blow off. I've blown this off for years. I've talked about it as like a weird thing, but because nothing happened, or I don't recall anything happening, it's not this huge event in my life. But it is, because I lost 4 hours of my life, and that's very strange. So, enough with me. Let's get on with these flying humanoid cryptids around the O'Hare Airport. Today's first flying humanoid around the O'Hare International Airport. This report was recently from a man who said he was standing outside of a cargo dock at the O'Hare International Airport in Chicago when he spotted a 7-foot-tall person with wings just outside of the fence by the parking lot. The sighting reportedly took place at approximately 6:30 p.m. on November 26th. Here's the report. I was at the airport picking up a load at Nippon. I was already backed into the dock, and I was standing away from the truck smoking a cigarette while they loaded my truck. I was looking towards the runway in the direction of the tunnel, and that's when I noticed something that looked like a large bird standing just outside of the fence by the parking lot. It wasn't hard to miss because 2 street lamps were nearby. It looked like a person with wings that were stretched out, flapping. It was walking away from the fence towards the open field and then began to flap its wings and disappeared. The witness stated that the creature was about 7 feet tall, using the fence as a point of reference. When asked how he was able to be so certain about its height of this creature, the driver stated he has been to this location multiple times, and he estimates the fence to be about 8 feet tall. Using the fence, he was certain that the being was at least 7 feet. When asked how large the wings were, he said at least 6 feet across and black. He describes the entity as looking like a demon or a goblin. It was solid black. He states that he saw nothing that looked like eyes and assumed the creature might have had his back turned to him. He stated that it walked with a gait like a bird, and it was flapping its wings as it walked towards a large field that was by the runways and disappeared into the night. The witness also stated that when it disappeared, he quickly did the sign of the cross and asked the Virgin Mary for protection. He put out his cigarette and quickly walked back to his truck. When asked why he did that, he stated that he felt a presence that was evil and was so convinced that he had seen a demon. When asked if he had ever seen anything like that before, the witness states that he had before when he was a teenager back home in Mexico. He saw a solid black-winged creature that was circling an open field that he and other children were playing soccer in. He says that it circled the field and made a loud screeching noise before flying off into the surrounding forest. When asked if he remembered the date of that sighting, he said he doesn't remember the exact date, but a week later there was a large earthquake in Mexico City. For the record, a magnitude 8.0 earthquake that hit Mexico City was September 19th, 1985. There have been several other sightings reported in the same area, including October 30th sighting of a large winged humanoid in Park Ridge. On October 29th, a report of a winged humanoid accompanied by several other beings. On October 19th, a sighting of a giant-sized bat just outside of Edward Hotel in Rosemont. October 5th, sighting a tall creature with bright red eyes and large wings near Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. And the report from July of a 6-foot tall creature flying over the Des Plaines River in Rosemont, Illinois. Here is the latest sighting of this red-eyed winged humanoid creature in O'Hare International Airport. This time it was sighted by a security officer. On the night of Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, I was heading towards one of the airport cargo hubs. There are multiple hubs scattered throughout the airport. This particular one was the one located on the Express Center Drive, and it houses at least 6 cargo companies. As I was approaching the creek headed towards Montrose Ave, when I saw this large person standing down in the creek bed. I stopped, thinking it was maybe a trucker who decided to wander down there and relieve himself. I put on my lights and stopped my vehicle and was preparing to get out when this man turned towards me, and I saw 2 very bright red eyes. The thing appeared to be looking straight at me, and then it turned away and walked away. As it did, it unfurled a set of wings and began to flap them. It looked like a large goose when it wants to take off into the air. It took off into the air and then it was gone into the darkness. I was left there wondering what the hell had just happened and what I had seen. After I got home, I spent the next few days looking for similar sightings, and there's been many. I'm going to be blunt here. I don't believe in hobgoblins or little green men. I'm sure that there must be a rational explanation for this. I have a reputation for being grounded and level-headed. I've worked too hard to get where I am, and I am not going to have it trashed by saying I saw a red-eyed flying man. Yet, that is what I saw. This witness has worked as a security guard for the O'Hare Airport since 2003. Almost 16 years, and it most certainly would be career suicide if he reported this. So what the hell is going on? O'Hare International Airport. It makes you wonder. It really does. Jesus, I hope nothing catastrophic happens. I just hope it's maybe a fluke and these beings are just maybe migrating south for the winter. I don't know. That's very, very scary. It's creepy that the first gentleman, the trucker, had seen one in Mexico. And what's even freakier is that once again, a catastrophic event did happen after he saw that a couple of weeks later. 0.8 or 8.0 earthquake in Mexico City. I remember that. I was 9 when that happened. And wow, I mean, Jesus, I really, truly hope nothing bad happens, but it makes you wonder. It really makes you wonder. A subscriber actually, when I was talking last about these glitches and these portals, apparently, now a lot of you know I don't listen to other channels. I periodically may watch, TV or a show or something. I like to do my reporting how I do it. I like to find a story and then analyze it and then do my own little thing. So I really don't get in depth with other people's, I don't go out and buy other people's books. And I'm probably going to massacre this gentleman's name. And I'm sure a lot of people will say, this is how you say it. So let's just save that. Don't do it. Because, I already know I'm going to say it wrong. But David Pauldines, or however you say his last name, I don't need to be corrected because it really doesn't matter that much to me. But I guess in his book, Missing 411, he was accompanied by some scientists, and apparently during or around these missing people, or wherever they became missing, there's been magnetic reports or magnetic fields, and that could, explain a portal possibly being there. It's just very interesting because I truly don't read other people's stuff. I like to, if I do, I like to read and then I'll make my own assumptions like I do here every night. But I'm so intrigued now. And I'm gonna talk about this one story that I heard a while back where this hunter was out hunting by the Skinwalker Ranch and he saw a portal open up and this thing fell out of the freaking sky. He immediately took off. So there's no telling how many fell out, what the hell it was, if anything happened during or after that portal closed, opened, because he just took off. Is the Dogman a genetic engineered super soldier? This idea has been propagated since before the era of Adolf Hitler, who embarked on the search for components necessary to create a hybrid super soldier. There were many experiments that took place in effort to achieve this goal, but all of the accounts relate that there was very little success in doing so. With the defeat of Hitler, there is speculation that scientists that worked under his control continued their search for the ultimate super soldier when they were recruited by the United States. We know that many scientists came here after the war and continued their work. It is possible that the advances in genetics have extended the capability to science to create these beings who have both human and animal characteristics. Now, this sounds very much like something from a sci-fi movie, but recently, There have been reports of scientists accomplishing the creation of genetic chimeras. It stands to reason that governments and militaries across the world would be interested in this capability, creating something that has the best attributes of a known animal would be something that is not only scary, but intriguing at the same time. This encounter possibly may shed light on the Dogman being a genetic engineered creature. While I was living in the rural area, I began to have encounters with Bigfoot creatures. The majority of the time I would see them at a distance, and I would always steer clear of them when I was out hunting or hiking in the woods. The encounters or sightings were frequent, and this was very interesting to me because it seemed like the area was densely populated with these creatures. I had to tell someone about what I was experiencing, and I decided I was going to call a friend and relate the events to him. I did, and he found it interesting as well. That evening, no more than 3 hours after I got off the phone with my friend, I noticed a strange vehicle in the area. This wasn't your standard SUV, truck, or car. This was an MRAP-styled vehicle, and it drove right past my house and into the area where these creatures frequented. Later that night, there was people with flashlights spotted in an open field that didn't have anything in it. These men were spotted because they were heard yelling back and forth to each other like they were searching for something. This back and forth banter continued for a few hours, and then it ceased altogether. The next night I happened to be outside after dark to retrieve something from my vehicle. It was a clear night, and you could see all the stars in the sky. When I turned to walk back to my house, I happened to look up at the sky, and I could see a large, low-flying military aircraft gliding through the sky. It glided past and out of my view, and there was no sound emanating from the engine. This seemed a little odd to me, so I stood there for a while. And about 10 or so minutes later, it passed overhead again. Same scenario, gliding low at treetop level, and no engine sound. This was very strange because I got the impression that they may have been looking for something via a scan of some sort. I questioned why they may have been doing so over privately owned property, but had no real idea what was going on. It isn't uncommon to see military flights in this area, and I passed it off as some kind of training or something like that. Across one of the fields near my home is a very old, unused barn that is in the process of being reclaimed by the trees, brush, and vines. I had long suspected that the Bigfoot in the area might have been using this structure to shelter in, because it's rarely visited by humans, and it would be a perfect spot for them to hide out in. I'd never gone to this structure to investigate because I felt it best to leave them be because they weren't really bothering anybody. After 4 days or so, these weird people and events taking place, it seemed like things had calmed down. One night, myself and my friend walked out under the stars to stargaze. We were standing there looking up at the sky, noting how clear it was, and that you could see every star in the sky. The dogs were walking around, doing dog stuff, sniffing and peeing. So we're standing there by the edge of the road looking up into the sky and marveling at the massive expanse of the universe. We began to talk, and I happened to glance down the road. When I did, I saw something sleek, low to the ground, and extremely fast run across the road. It was running so fast that it almost looked like a flash of movement. In my mind, I was telling myself that it had to be a deer running from something, or that it had been spooked. It ran in the direction of the old barn, and I figured it was an old buck deer that had been spotted bedding down in the area of growth near the barn. I didn't think anything else for a few seconds. I turned to tell my friend about the deer, and when I turned back, that's when it was standing back at the edge of the road where it had crossed. It was huge, dark silhouette of what appeared to be a werewolf-type creature. This thing was huge, and it was about the size of a very large grizzly bear or bigger. It stood there on all fours, with its head turned towards us like it was looking directly at us. I'm seeing it, and there is silence coming from my friend until I ask if he can see it as well. The reply was quick and a short yes, I see it, and let's get out of here. I had a flashlight, and I decided that I wanted to get a better look at this thing. So I turned the light on and shined it directly on the creature. I don't know how, but as soon as the light hit this thing, it disappeared. There was nowhere to run, because it was standing in a wide open space, and if it had taken off running, we would have seen it. As I shined the light on it, the dogs became aware of it, and took off running down the road in the direction of where the creature was standing. They went down to the exact spot where the creature was standing and sniffed the ground for a minute or so before returning back to us. I know I wasn't seeing things because the dogs went to the exact spot and sniffed and growled around the area. How this creature had simply vanished remains a mystery to me, and has me scratching my head until this day. After that night, there seemed to be a steady decrease in the overall activity from the Bigfoot creatures. I can't say that it's the result of the Dogman being in the area, and I can't say that the Dogman was in the area due to military presence that was spotted in the area either. All I can do is relate the events as I observe them. We have no idea what kind of technology exists and what flavor of gadgetry is being used by the military and governments around the world. It is my opinion that discounting stories like this could be a mistake. There are reports of technologies that were being used in wartime environments that cause people to hallucinate and hear and see things that weren't actually there. Could this be a factor in why this creature was able to disappear, as it was reported? Before we move on to a couple of encounters, I want to touch on something. Normally I do it at the last minute of the video, but I just want to touch on this. Could it be that the Sasquatch population in that area, and by the way, the area was Oklahoma, was getting too high, and the military released a Dogman type of creature to decrease that population? Or, no, this is a big or, was the military there because of the population of Bigfoot and Dogman, but the Dogman actually, when the light hit it, was able to go to the alternate universe of existence, the other plane where it exists as well, and not be seen. That's a couple big ifs and what ifs or whatever. The military could have just let this thing go to, wipe out the large population of Bigfoot. Kind of like a cover-up. Happens all the time. Or a alternate plane of universe. There's been claims that a portal, there was a hunter in Skinwalker Ranch area, claims that he was hunting and he saw a portal open about 20 feet off the ground, and a faceless, terrifying creature drop out. Now, the hunter ran back to where he came from. Who's to say that just only one came out? And who's to say that there wasn't one of these portals where this population of Sasquatch were? So the Dogman, maybe it being its natural enemy, got dropped and decided to fight right there. I don't know. I just find it really interesting. Two really good speculative views right there. Anyway, let's get back on with the encounters. Today's second encounter is another military one that fits right in and you guys will see shortly why I say that. Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. It was nearing the end of our basic training rotation, and we had a few things to do before we graduated. We were to go on our 3-day bivouac in the wilds and then come back a couple of days before the actual graduation. We road marched into the location that we were going to be camping in, and we set up our campsites. There were shelter half tents scattered periodically through the area by the time it was starting to get dark. We went through the standard procedures that you follow when deployed before bedding down at night. I was in my tent and fell asleep fast. I must have been really tired. I have no idea how long I was asleep for, but I woke up. I was lying there, listening, and it was eerily silent. Something didn't seem right, and I couldn't quite place my finger on it. I decided the only way I was going to know for sure that everything was okay was to get out of my tent and see for myself. I exited my tent feet first, and upon standing up, I turned and was almost face to face with what I presumed to be another soldier. I stood there for a few seconds, trying to figure out what this weirdo was doing. There was no movement, no sound, and no indication that they were concerned about me being there. In a low whisper, I asked, "What are you doing?" There was no response, no movement, and this person just continued to stand there. It was fairly dark, but there was enough moonlight that I could make out a clear silhouette of this supposed person. I began thinking to myself that maybe they didn't hear me, and I asked a little bit louder, "What are you doing?" Still no response and no movement, and I started to get a little concerned. All of a sudden, I started to hear the sound of footsteps on the dirt roadway that was just 40 or so yards from my tent. I turned to see what was going on, and I could clearly see that it was another company of trainees moving into the area. I watched them for a few seconds and then turned back to what I thought was a person standing there. They were gone. No sign of them anywhere. I heard no movement from them. It was just like they disappeared into thin air. There were plenty of leaves and tree limb debris in the area that I'd surely have heard them departing my area. I'm not saying this was a ghost, Bigfoot, Dogman, or any other type of cryptid creature. I don't know what it was, other than creepy as hell.
And there you have it, folks. I do hope you all enjoyed this night-ending bonus upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please, everyone, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real, they are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.